Hi, I'm Ginger, and I'm reading from the Geneva New Testament with modern spellings, and it's coming from the book of James, chapter 5, verse 9. Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest you be condemned. Behold, the judge stands before the door. So we don't want to hold grudges, and we don't want to fight against people. We don't want to just bicker and jab at each other and be, horrible and ugly and rude. We want to be kind and sweet. Does it mean that you can never correct anybody? No, it doesn't mean that. You can still correct someone. Like if someone calls themselves a brother or a sister and they're fornicating, you can and should go to them and show them 1 Corinthians 6:9, how we're not supposed to fornicate, and fornicators who practice that and die in that sin do not inherit the kingdom of God, as well as drunkards, etc., etc. You can read the list: murderers, liars, etc. So we don't want to grudge against each other. We don't want to fight, bicker, backbite, gossip. We want to be loving. Lest you be condemned, behold, the judge stands before the door. So Jesus is the judge. Jesus said, why do you judge your brother? We're not to judge our brothers and sisters. Jesus is the judge, and we're not to judge the world. Jesus Christ is the judge. He is the King of Kings. He's all knowing. He knows the hearts of people. We will be able to tell people who has fruit of the Spirit just by looking. We'll know if they have love that they are the true disciples of Christ. But we are not to judge them whether they're going to hell or heaven, because the end hasn't come yet. And they have time. As long as they have breath in their lungs, they have time to call out to God. They might call out to Jesus Christ on their deathbed. There was a thief on the cross that was about to die next to Christ, and there were two thieves, one on each side of him. And one of them called out to him and put faith in him and said, remember me in paradise. And Jesus said, this day I will remember you in paradise. I will be with you in paradise. So he didn't have, he didn't have any ministry that he did for Christ. He just died, slipped into eternity. But he did receive Christ before he died. So I'm not advocating that people don't do the works of God. I'm just saying that there are some people who get saved on their deathbed. So if they have breath in their lungs, they have time to turn to Jesus Christ sincerely and ask him to forgive their sins and receive him into their life. Take my brethren, the prophets, for an example of suffering, adversity, and of long patience, which have spoken in the name of the Lord. Behold, we count them blessed, which endure. You have heard of the patience of Job, and have known what end the Lord made, for the Lord is very compassionate and merciful. So we know the story of Job. He lost everything. He got pussy red bumps all over his body. He lost his wife and children and all his animals. But in the end, he got more back. Well, he only got one wife back. I mean, it wasn't his wife that died. She didn't raise from the dead, but he got a different wife because she had died. And so, and he had more children and more animals after the whole ordeal was done, and he was healed. So Satan came to God and asked, and God allowed him to make Job suffer with all this. And so I know it seems strange that God would allow Satan to do that, but God's ways are higher than ours, and he knows the beginning from the ending and the ending from the beginning. And so he knows what he's doing. And it was a great example, really, because Job never cursed God. He asked why, but he never cursed God. He never cursed God in all this trouble and trial and tribulation. He never cursed God. We should never curse God. But before all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, nor by earth, nor by any other oath. But let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay, lest you fall into condemnation. Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing. So if you are sick, you can pray to God for healing. Um, it doesn't mean you'll instantly always get healed, but you might get healed. So you may as well go ahead and pray and put your faith in Jesus. And if you want, you can go to the church. If you found a good church that preaches the Holy Bible, then you can have those elders lay hands on you, and that'll go into that too. Let him call. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray for him, and anoint him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up, and if he has committed sins, it shall be forgiven him. So if you have found a good church, which is very hard to find, but we have found one that preaches the Bible finally, and is a humble place. It's not a big light show. It's humble, heartfelt worship to God and the straight up preaching from the Holy Bible. So, if you have finally found one that is a Bible believing church, then you can have those people pray for you and they can anoint you with oil and maybe you'll get healed. Put your faith out there. Put your faith in Jesus, not in the person that's praying for you. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he has committed sins, it shall be forgiven him. Acknowledge your faults one to another and pray one for another that you may be healed. So if you have a trustworthy friend that won't gossip and won't backbite, you can go to that person and ask for prayer. You can say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Could you pray for me? Or I'm sick. Could you pray for this ailment to leave? In Jesus' name, I'll be in agreement with you. Do that. Okay, so acknowledge your faults one to another and pray one for another that you may be healed. For the prayer of the righteous man profits much if it be fervent. So you want that effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man. And that word man means mankind. So this is for women too. Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are. And he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth for 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. I want to tell a small story. I know this seems very small and insignificant to you, maybe, but we wanted to go hiking, my 16-year-old daughter and I, yesterday. So I prayed that it would not rain when we were hiking, and that if God wanted it to rain, that He would let it rain after we were done hiking and back to the car. And so that's what happened. It stopped raining. We got to go hike, and by the time we were driving home, it started to rain again. So I just started praising God. I said, "Oh, Alicia, God answered our prayer." And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you has erred from the truth, and some man has converted him, let him know that he which has converted the sinner from going astray out of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. Okay, so we're going to stop there, but I just wanted to tell all of you who seek after God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength that you are blessed. And when you draw near to God, He draws near to you. Thank you for listening.